Do you want to play a game? Bill, do you?
Is that to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play a game.
Berm, you want to play a game?
I have no choice. I'm here.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to the Podcast Daily. It is a Woody Wednesday morning, and I want to know who needs it more. Who does this game mean more for?
Oh, okay. You mean Ohio State? Okay, got it. Yeah.
And it's Ohio State and Notre Dame. Those are the two options that you have.
Got it.
Because they're playing on Saturday night in prime time in South Bend. So I think it's an interesting question because college football has changed so much and that both teams could conceivably survive a loss. Probably one less than the other. But I'm curious how you are viewing this. The stakes for these teams, who needs it more?
I think Notre Dame probably needs it more, right? I think Marcus Freeman needs a validating win on his resume early in his tenure. I think it's difficult for Notre Dame to get into the playoff without winning this game. Not to say that they can't. I think they still could. Ohio State definitely can if they don't win. And I'm not trying to prepare Ohio State fans for accepting a loss and emotionally preparing yourself for that, because I think Ohio State should win this game. But in terms of who needs it more, Ohio State can lose and still go on and win the Big Ten and do its thing like we've seen them do in the past. And I do think Notre Dame, if it wants to be taken seriously as a national power and a team that is talked about in these kind of conversations, I do think they need this more.
From a program perspective, I agree Notre Dame needs it more. From a this season perspective, I think Ohio State needs it more because the Buckeyes have to play Penn State and Michigan. And Notre Dame can lose to Ohio State. And if they beat USC, if they beat Clemson, do they play Florida State?
I don't believe so.
If they beat USC, they'll still make the playoff.
I don't think they will.
I think they will.
Okay.
But that's just the way I'm viewing it.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be overly penalized for a loss at home against a top 10 team in Ohio State. So for Ohio State, I think this game is much more about the psyche and how you feel moving forward about your team. You've had 3 weeks of what's basically been scrimmages, and if your first real test to see if you're a different team than you were last November 26th is at Notre Dame, the team that's going to play a very similar style to what Michigan has done successfully against Ohio State in the last 2 years. This is that barometer game for me. Are you tough enough to go up there and get punched in the face, man-to-man? How do you handle what Notre Dame is going to do? And they are going to try to run the ball up your ass. And if you let them do that, what does that mean for the rest of this season?
I was going to do a very vulgar hand gesture, but I stopped myself from doing it.
He already said the word, so this is already rated R.
What does that mean for the rest of the season for Ohio State? I don't think that. I don't think losing to Ohio State puts any sort of mental block on Notre Dame the rest of the year. I do worry that it could do that to Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's why I found the question fascinating enough to devote the Podcast Daily to it, because you can make strong cases for both, who it should mean more for. I think for Berm's point, I do disagree. There are enough people who are skeptical of Notre Dame on the national stage and have seen them fall short that if they lose at home to another team that's in the playoff conversation, that will be a disqualifier for them. That's my opinion. We'll see. Obviously, there's a lot more football, and they could run through everybody else on that schedule and wow people. And with the SEC falling apart the way that it has, with all that, the empire crumbling in Tuscaloosa and all that stuff. I mean, maybe that's the opportunity they need to sneak in, even if they lose. But I think there's so much angst around the Woody, around Columbus, around fan base, the way that we cover it, everything, dating back to the 2 losses to Michigan, coming up short in the Peach Bowl, even as close as they've been in some of these games, that if Ohio State were to lose on Saturday, going into a bye week, I think I would like to throw my laptop into the river. I wouldn't want to be around for that. It'll be so uncomfortable. The conversations about Ryan Day, which he would be in no danger of being fired, but it would certainly change a lot of the perception or enforce it in the minds of some people. I won't speak for everyone's opinions on it, but and then the conversation about, quarterbacks after everything that's gone on for the last couple of months, all of that stuff to me points to a team in here that really needs it more. Even though they could still go win the Big Ten, that their playoff resume could still very well be the same because they would have lost to a top 10 team on the road. Yeah. That's much easier to write off. But if they beat Penn State and Michigan, then everything's fine. But I still think that getting to that point, the next few weeks and the adversity that they would face, maybe mentally or even externally, the pressure that's put on them would be tough to handle.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think too there's some skepticism about this program's ability to be. I think what Ryan Day has said it wants to be coming off of that Peach Bowl game last year, which like the bold and the aggressive stuff. And do you need to be that every single week of the season? No, it's probably unrealistic to expect that, but you want to be that in the big games. And this is a big game, regardless of how you think the teams match up. It's a huge game. And I think like last year in this game, I think Ohio State played a little tight. I think like at Penn State, they played a little tight and then finally turned it on late. Certainly played tight against Michigan. And then they like washed it all away and went to Atlanta as underdogs and played like a team that had nothing to lose. I think Ohio State can play that way, even if that's not technically the case. Like, of course, they have something to lose this week. But I don't know if there's a lot of belief they're going to be that. So this is a stress test of that, I think, in some ways. And if they don't rise to that level, even if they win, frankly, like if they win like they won last year, I still think that might plant a little bit of doubt in people's minds. Like, okay, when you are truly in a game where you are equals or even a step behind the team you're playing, can you play the way that you played against Georgia last year? Because I think everyone wants to see it, right? I want to see it. It's fun, but I don't believe just yet that they're going to do it because I need to see it first.
I think the fascinating thing about Ryan Day's entire tenure at Ohio State is that the loss to Georgia, no one seems to really care about because they came out and they played loose with Goose. The 2019 loss to Clemson, heartbreaking, but no one bangs on it anymore because they know Ohio State did everything they could against a freaking really good Clemson team, and the Buckeyes should have won that game. There's things that
and then they stomped them the next year.
But the difference in those games is that the Buckeyes let it all out. There was no holding back. And I think the question is, when you're playing Michigan in the last 2 years, when you play Notre Dame, like, are you limiting yourself? Ryan Day's lost 6 games in his 4 years at Ohio State, and people doubt a lot about what he does. And I think some of it is because there is a belief that, or at least a perception that he's not willing to just throw everything out there every single week. And this is the week to do it. If they go out and to your point, I think even if Ohio State wins this game 21-14, 21-17, like people are going to go, what is that? Because that's just not the expectation right here. And the expectation is unreasonable in a lot of ways because you just have to win your games. And that's what I'm a little bit concerned about after Tuesday's presser. Ryan Day saying, all we're trying to do is win the game. We're just trying to win the game. Like, and I get he's not going to come out and say, we're going to throw haymaker after haymaker. But like, he did say that leading up to the Georgia game. We are going to do whatever we can. We are going to throw everything at them. And we saw what that looked like. So if there's any sort of tightness, I think that it has a real possibility of extending past Saturday.
If I changed the question to Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day, does that alter your answer in any way?
No, I think my answer is still the same. There are validating stakes here for both of them, I think. For probably more so for Marcus. Like, whatever criticisms you have of Ryan Day, and a lot of them I think are fair, and maybe some aren't, he has proven that he has an ability to like get Ohio State to the stage. He just hasn't gotten over the hump yet. And Marcus Freeman, I think, is trying to show that he's a big-time coach at a big-time program. So I think eventually to do that, you need to win a game like this.
Yeah, it doesn't change it for me. I think it's much more important for Ryan Day than Marcus Freeman because no one expects Notre Dame to be in the playoff at this point anymore. It's not the expectation.
I think people are expecting Notre Dame to like show up. And, I think there's a national wave that's trying to get behind Notre Dame.
Do you think that wave is getting behind Notre Dame or a national wave of saying they're all waiting for Ohio State to fall?
It's probably both, right? I don't know. Like if Notre Dame were playing a Florida State this week, it would probably be the same. We just wouldn't notice it because they're not playing Ohio State and we're not that close to it.
Maybe. But I think that there is such a overwhelming national desire to see Ohio State fall because it never has, that people are just waiting and waiting and waiting for that. And I think that people want to pull the rug out from underneath Ryan Day, and he needs to be able to walk out on Saturday night at 11:30 p.m. and say, keep trying because we're not going to fold. And Marcus Freeman is in his second year as a head coach at a place where it is nearly impossible to win on the national level because of their different restrictions in the academics and because of their refusal to get involved in NIL or pay their coaches. Like, I think Marcus Freeman is no matter how much he loves Notre Dame, we all know that if he gets his druthers 3 years from now, he's not going to be the head coach at Notre Dame. he'll be somewhere else that's bigger and that he has a better chance to win a
But
national
don't you
title.
need this to do that?
Yeah, I don't think you can do it without it.
I don't think you need this one. I think, again, there's other games.
You say A1?
You need one of them. If that's USC, whatever. If you go 11-1 this year and your only loss is to a playoff ranked Ohio State, I don't think anyone's going to hold that against you.
I'm not sure that they're talented enough to go 11-1 either, but
that's exactly my point. So if they're not, then they shouldn't be beating Ohio State.
Sure. I mean, I'm not arguing that point with you at all.
Point.
What about Sam Hartman or Kyle McCord?
I think Doug was saying when he was in South Bend and Sam Hartman was getting a lot of like, hey, you're in a big game. You don't usually win those kind of questions. So maybe it does mean more for a Sam Hartman.
Has he ever been in them?
I mean, they played at Wake Forest.
One.
They played good.
Didn't they go to the ACC championship game?
Yeah, I think they were
We
a
could
good
go to
team.
the ACC championship
Yeah, that's true.
game.
The ACC does
Well,
stink.
yeah, they sell tickets. They're like $2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle's so early in his career that like I don't really think this is any kind of referendum on where he is as a quarterback. It's the same kind of like C.J. Stroud's second start loss to Oregon was not a referendum on his legacy as a quarterback. He got much better after that fact. Sam Hartman is a guy who's like incredibly productive, wants to be in the NFL conversation, wants to show that he can win big games, and I think like lift a program like Notre Dame forward. I think it means a whole lot more for him.
I generally only hear what Ohio State fans are saying. I can't imagine how bad it's going to be in Ohio State circles if Kyle McCord goes out and doesn't play a good game and loses to Notre Dame. I can't imagine it.
Well, yeah, but that's true of every week.
But I mean, people want the backup already, but
I saw someone say that Devin Brown threw the ball better than Kyle McCord last week. Devin Brown threw 4 passes.
one of them
was intercepted.
One of them was the best ball of the day,
Yeah.
and the other 3 were fine.
No.
Two at the
The interception. Oh yeah,
But that's your point. Like they're like the fact that thought could even enter
Right.
someone's mind is like okay.
So that amount of pressure, considering the way that the fan base was divided even in the preseason, I just think that it would be awful for Kyle McCord's like mental approach and his psyche to have that happening.
I feel like we're putting a lot of negative vibes out there.
He's BGB.
I don't.
Big game
What's the negative about it? That's what will happen if they lose a game.
Yeah, but fan reaction and and reality for the player, I don't think necessarily match up.
I don't think they have to match up, but I do think that these kids see what is being said. It's not like they don't know about it. Their parents read things. I mean, they know what's
He's going to play well anyway. It doesn't matter.
He's going to play well.
Yeah.
I don't think Sam Hartman's in his 18th year. Like he's played a lot of football. I agree. Like now, it's the whole wake up the echoes thing at Notre Dame. Like that is, that's what I said earlier. Like from a program level, I think this game is much more important for Notre Dame because they are trying to prove that you can win at Notre Dame and you can be in that national championship conversation again when they haven't had a national championship since 1988 or whatever, 89, one of those two, 88.
None of them were real.
1933.
I mean, that's the last time they beat Ohio State in South Bend, so 1936. So it obviously has a lot of weight for them.
A stat that truly matters.
Yeah. Well, Sam Hartman was a freshman that year. He's the one guy who played in that game.
I do think that like I don't know like
Josh Proctor was.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you agree with this? Like Sam Hartman has to go win this game for Notre Dame, and Kyle McCord does not have to go win the game for Ohio State. There are vastly more roads for Ohio State to win this game than I think Notre Dame has, and Notre Dame's I think only chance is like Sam Hartman plays his butt off. Yeah,
I agree completely, which is why I think that I have a hard time. A lot of the things that Berm has said have been true. They should win comfortably. It is maybe not a true matchup game in the likes of Georgia or Michigan. A spread of 3 does not compute in my brain between the talent on these rosters. So, yes, Ohio State's defense can win this game by stopping Sam Hartman. Ohio State's defense can win the game with a touchdown or 2. Travion Henderson, Chip Traynham, and Mayan Williams can win this game. Marvin Harrison can win the game. Kyle McCord, if he plays a game management game, I don't like using that tag, and I think that it undersells his ability. But if he doesn't turn the football over, I think Ohio State's going to win, and probably comfortably. But That's your point.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sam Hartman cannot game manage his way to a Notre Dame win, I don't think.
True.
Yes, I think he has to be spectacular. And I think he's capable of it, but it's just a lot on your shoulders.
No, you had him as like in the Kings of the North preseason rankings. You had him as
well,
like
he
the
throws the
number
ball to the other
15
team a lot.
player.
He's not done it so far this year.
Doug
but-
had him at number 3. You had him at number 15.
Yeah,
And
I had
you
him.
spent the entire episode saying the guy sucks.
No, I spent the entire episode saying, like, let's not crown him just yet because he played well against Navy and Tennessee State.
But to your point, if
NC
he goes
State.
out and plays a pristine game on Saturday and beats Ohio State, then you're like, let's fit him for the crown?
Yeah, then it's legit, I think.
Okay. I agree with that. I don't think, the kid's a really good football player. I'm not going to.
I don't think he's bad. Like, I hope that's not how I've come across. I do not think Sam Hartman is a bad football player.
He's hard to evaluate for me because I don't think that the teams that they've played through 4 games are worth anything. So he's made some good throws. And how much does it mean if you've thrown 41 career interceptions and you've been in college football for that long and you played at Wake Forest? Like,
There's
you're
also
pro-
a very unique system there,
Yeah.
too, that I think makes it difficult.
like you play for Wake Forest. You are going to turn the football over. That program sucks.
Yeah, because you're going to be behind all the time and throwing all the time. Like,
Wake Forest has been a little better than I think you guys are.
Hey, Dave
articulating.
Clawson's a fine coach.
He had good receivers. there,
Fine
too.
coach, Dave Clawson is. I just think it's telling that a guy in his 6th year as a quarterback left Wake Forest and didn't go to the NFL and didn't really have the push to go to the NFL.
Because he was in a weird system and he had to go show that he can operate a pro-style system at Notre Dame,
I'm
which to
just
this
saying.
point he's done very
And Notre
effectively.
Dame's just dropping those NIL bags. You say that they're not. They're going to get their quarterback plump.
They just gave him a bunch of shaving cream for that
How much
beard.
would Nick Saban, pay for Sam Hartman right now?
Well, he should have paid
The
more
limit
for.
does not exist.
He should have paid more
What the hell?
for that guy than, I don't know, Tyler Buckner.
Hey, I don't think they had to pay for Buckner. I think that was included in the Tommy Reese agreement.
I mean, they shouldn't have paid
just
for
carried him
either
on.
You
one.
guys are sharing an apartment.
Carrying a basket like
Hey,
Yoda
bud.
from Tuscaloosa.
You guys are sharing an apartment. Hey, Tommy, it's Tyler.
The sock's on the door, bro.
I gotta leave. I have to leave South Bend. Can I stay with you for a minute? Sure, man. You want to join our football squad?
Yeah.
Is there any more? Like, okay, so we've done.
Those were the
coach,
ones.
we've done
I think they're the
program,
only 3 that matter. Like, that's the way I look at games. Like, program, coaching
What
staff,
about for the
quarterbacks.
fans?
Well, I was going to say the Ohio State media versus the Notre Dame media, but apparently they don't have anyone that covers their team.
Yeah.
What about for the respective outgoing athletic directors?
But Gene Smith can't lose.
Can't lose. Can't lose to the alma mater.
I mean, the fan base is, again, Notre Dame's is probably on edge because they haven't won anything in 30 years, 40 years. But
I bet they're pretty confident going into this too. I think
they
they should be.
they're playing well.
They play well.
And they've put a lot of eggs in this basket, which is why, to that point, how much it matters to them. Like, people that I know who work at Notre Dame and around the program were sending me pictures of the Beat Ohio State buttons in August that were already going around. Like, they treated this as a 4-week preseason too. They had the opportunity to do
It's
that.
like a button they just press and they beat Ohio State.
No, one of the one of those
It's so
1980. It was from the
interesting,
1936 game. I
When
know,
you're Ohio
whenever
State,
it was.
like, you are every team beat Ohio State game. Like, there is no, and I think that,
Well, that's the curse of being called Ohio State.
I know, but, like,
you're
still-
always going to be that.
What if you were called Florida?
you would still be the beat Ohio State game. It's you can't beat Ohio State and go play anywhere without it being the biggest game of that team's year. So
I think this is ratcheted up though. Like,
Oh, it feels
because they
like
play
it.
so infrequently.
it feels like it for sure. And Ohio State's won the last 5. I thought it was interesting. Like, I mean, the last 5 times they played, that both teams have been inside of the top 10 in the AP, which I wouldn't have anticipated. But then I guess you figure they played in 95 and 96, and then in the bowl games were, 2 Fiesta Bowls, so I guess it makes sense.
Mhm.
And then last year, but Notre Dame shouldn't have been in the top 10 last year to start the season. So that's why preseason polls are stupid.
They are, yeah.
But
Is the photo of Eddie running away from them, was that in the shoe or is that at Notre
that
Dame?
was at Ohio Stadium. It was in
Can't
the,
remember
it was
what
in the
color
Scarlet
jersey it was.
jersey.
Okay.
So it is a huge game. We are excited to bring more coverage throughout the week. We will be in here later tonight on Wednesday, Woody Wednesday post game or post practice.
I think he had 207 yards that game, just for future
For bowl peas.
For bold peas.
Okay, you're filing that away.
Just
Why didn't you just keep that? You gave that information to Bill, and I was going to steal it.
he'd figure it out anyway. This guy researches his brains off.
Yeah.
He does. It's crazy. Like, if you try,
Some would say unnecessary.
if you try to do research, you learn more. What a novel concept. I could try it, but I bet I won't. A lot more coming throughout the week. Thanks for spending part of your Wednesday with us. More coverage coming throughout the day on the podcast. This has been the Podcast Daily. That is Bill and Berm. I'm Austin. We will talk to you later.